Chapter 3, Module 3, Identifying Elements with Snaps. Many of the operations that you perform in a design session rely on your ability to identify existing elements. Microstation provides the tools to perform these tasks. You can quickly and conveniently identify elements or key points on elements using tentative snap points and data points. Snaps are always used in conjunction with tools such as place line, place block, place circle, place arc, place text. MultiSnap is a great help. There are times, however, if you're in a very busy drawing, you've got a bunch of lines coming through, you'll see that your cursor tends to jump around sometimes. If you need to turn it off, you can temporarily disable it by clicking the toggle MultiSnap button in the lower left hand corner. Now you can get close to the, let's say, endpoint that you want to select. Do middle mouse button, tentative snap. The line highlights, you know you have the right one, and you can left click to draw your line. If you want to do a near snap point for some reason on these lines, there are a whole bunch together, you want to make sure you get the right line. If you do a middle mouse button click or tentative snap, you'll notice that one of the lines highlight. If this is not the one I want, I do another snap in the same position, and it will toggle on through all the elements that share that point. Then I can simply left click out in space, and I'm drawing it, I know, with certainty from that line. So I'm going to use the Place Smart Line tool. Down on the bottom, by default, the Snaps button bar is docked. If it was not docked for some reason, there are several locations that you can find it. Down here on the bottom, to the right side of the message center, if you left click, hold your mouse button in, you'll see all your snaps listed. You can select button bar, or you can also go to settings, snaps, and select button bar there, and it'll bring your button bar out on the screen. We choose to have it docked in the lower left hand corner. Prior to V8, MultiSnap didn't exist. So I'm going to turn it off to show you the way that it used to work, and it also works the same way today if you didn't like to use MultiSnap. Right now we have our key point snap as our active snap, and you can tell that because it has that grayed look. We simply come up to the point on that element that we'd like to snap to. Being it's a key point snap, it's going to want to snap to an end point or a midpoint or a point on a quadrant. All you have to do is get close to it, do a middle mouse button click, and you'll see it snap to it, become a big plus. You know right now that you are snapped to it because it's highlighted and has that big plus. If you left click, you know for certain you're going to be drawing from that. I like to keep MultiSnap toggled on, as do most people in design, so we can turn that back on. You can tell it's on because it's showing as it's pressed in. Now as I get close to an element, you can see that it's automatically snapping to those key points on that element. When I get close to the point I'd like, it highlights. Right now you see there it's not a yellow X, but it's that little plus sign that's kind of dotted. It's not snapped to the point. If I were to left click now, I would not be drawing a line from that point. So I have to not only be close enough to it, but you have to see the line highlight, and you got that X. And I left click, and I'm drawing a line from that point. Do and undo. There is also a feature that allows you to do overrides. If I wanted to do, for one operation, do a near snap point, I can single left click on it, and as you see now it's pressed in, but it's not grayed. It's just a normal background color. The near snap point, as you see as I get close to this element and go up and down it, you'll see it's an infinite amount of points almost along that line that I can select. It's not very accurate. So if I get to a point that I want to draw a line from, I can get close to it, left click, and draw the line. And I'm done. Do and undo. And the same will work on circles. As you saw, it just did it for one operation. If I were to double left click it, it now becomes my default snap. And as you see for my circles, an infinite number of points around there, shapes, arcs, and it works the same way on everything except, of course, text. Our key point snap, as I told you, that will give you key points on that line, which is your midpoint and your endpoints. It'll give you the quadrants of a circle. For a shape, it'll give you the midpoint and endpoints of all the lines that make up that shape. For an arc, it gives you the mid and end points. For a line string, same thing. Even though all those lines are together in a line string, it still sees the individual line segments. With a point curve or a stream curve, it'll find the beginning, the middle, and the end of that entire curve. Text, it will find where that text is justified from. In this case, you'll see it's top left justified, so it will find that point. The next snap is our midpoint snap, and this will do exactly what it says. For a line, it will find the midpoint of that line. It will no longer find the endpoints, and you have to be close enough to it to snap to. With a circle, it'll find the midpoint of that circle, which is opposite where I began drawing it from. With a shape, it will find the midpoints of what seem to be the individual line segments, even though there aren't any individual real line segments there. With an arc, it'll find the midpoint of the arc. With a line string, it will find the midpoints of what it sees as the individual line segments, even though once again there are no individual line segments. With a curve, it'll find the middle of the curve, and text is not applicable for. Our center snap will find exactly as it says, the center of an element. For a line, now interestingly enough, for a circle, you can either go to the outside edge or you can go to the middle, and it will draw a line from that point, and it won't grab it on the edge because it's looking for the center. Same with a shape. With an arc, it's finding the geographic center. With a line string, it's finding the center of that entire string, and as you see, it's actually the geographic center of that as well. Same with the curve and text, of course. Your origin snap finds where the element was placed from. As you see, it was placed from the top right corner. Finds the origin of each of these, where it actually was begun. And text that shows how it was justified. Your bisector snap will kind of do the same. It'll find the actual bisector, which is kind of like the midpoint snap. Your intersect snap. This will find the intersection between two lines, and I'm going to draw a line out here. Actually, I'm going to draw a couple of lines out here. This will find where two elements actually intersect, or it will find where two elements would intersect. And the way we would do that is I simply would hover over one of these elements, and I do middle mouse button click, and you'll see it's highlighted, and we've got that plus sign. Like I mentioned before, this is where that middle mouse button, the manual selection, comes in handy. Now you hover over the other element, and you'll see that plus show up, or that X. All I have to do is left click, and I'll be snapped to the point where they would theoretically intersect in space. Our tangent snap. This will of course place a line tangent to a circle or an arc. If you left click, and as you see, as I'm going around, it will stay tangent to that circle anywhere I go. If I'd like it to go the other way, I'd have to start it from the opposite side of the circle. So I'll start it from this side, and as you see now, it's drawing to the right. You can also use this on arcs. You can go tangent to any point on that arc. And what's neat is it also sees the continuation of that arc. Then I would simply left click, and I've drawn my line. I can do an undo. Now your tangent point snap uses a combination of your tangent snap and your key point snap. So what this will do is this will actually snap from a point, from a key point, and it will draw a tangent to that circle from that point. Same with an arc. It finds the key points, and it will draw a tangent to that arc from that point. A perpendicular snap. We can go perpendicular from an element, and as you see, if I go off that element, it still sees a continuation of that element. If I want to go perpendicular from the circle, I select the circle, left click, and as you see, it allows me to draw perpendicular from anywhere on that circle. I can also draw perpendicular to the circle and the element on the left, or any element for that matter as well. Being perpendicular snap is my default snap right now. I just hover over the second element, which is my line, and I left click, and it's drawing a line perpendicular to both. Do an undo. This also works for shapes, but keep in mind it will stay with the segment. Arcs, etc. We have our perpendicular snap point, which once again is a combination of our perpendicular snap and our key point snap, and that will go from key points perpendicular off that line, or circle, or and we have our parallel snap. Now this is great for is, let's suppose I was drawing a line and I realized, oh, I want it perpendicular to that yellow element. What am I going to do? Well, I can double left click on my parallel snap, and all I have to do is select that line, and now it's drawing it parallel to that line. Kind of neat. Last but least is our multi-snap. This combines several different snaps of our choosing. You can right click on multi-snap and go to properties, and here this brings up different options we have, our multi-snap 1, 2, and 3. As you saw, we've got 3 of them available. I've only got 1 displayed, so we'll go with that one. What this allows us to do is combine different types of snaps. To demonstrate this, I'm going to draw a line right there. We've got our intersection, key point, and nearest snap. It looks through these snaps from top to bottom. So the intersection snap it'll see first, and the next priority is key points, and the third is nearest. I can change this order around simply by left clicking and dragging them down and putting them where I want. We're going to move the nearest snap to the bottom. That way it finds it last, otherwise it'll find it all the time. Okay, I drew this line, and now I want to see my different snaps, or snap to different points. As I come along that element, you'll see it sees the nearest snap point. That's the only snap available right now. As I get close to this intersection, it sees the intersection snap, and as you see, the icon changes to that little intersection symbol. When I come down, it finds a key point, which is the midpoint of that element. It finds another intersection, nearest, and key point. It can come in handy, but keep in mind, if you have your nearest snap at the top, it's going to see that all the time. and it's not going to find the other snaps because it's at the top of the priority list. So if you use nearest, I'd put that at the bottom. But that's all there is to it.